Well, this is a REACH forum focusing on Prime Minister's National Day rally. I think we had an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours of very good conversations, and indeed it was a national conversation. Many frank sharings. The consensus from all those who shared was that Prime Minister's theme of our best home with big hearts, people with big hearts and hope resonated. And there were many useful ideas, and many shared their personal experiences. I think many felt that that was the right direction to go, and that's what we want to become in 20 years' time. What I was particularly cheered about was actually young people, in this instance a university student, warning us that the whole crowd, that we have to be careful in the midst of this not to be soft-headed and make decisions that we will regret later. That we have to. He mentioned the word hard truths, and that we have to remember our vulnerabilities. Some things don't change, and that even now, in our quest to become the type of Singapore, of the best home in 20 years, we have to take into account our practical reality. So I must say that particularly cheered me. So it's been a very productive session, and I think I predict that from this group, that this national conversation that we're going to have will be a very rich one and a very useful one. I think citizens do want to step forward and share their views on how we can become the kind of Singapore we want, or become the kind of people that we want. The point was that our society is aging. We're going to have more aged people, and we want to take better care of the disadvantaged, the disabled, and just by numbers alone, even if you spend the same amount, social spending will increase. And the Prime Minister said quite bluntly and explicitly that within the next 20 years, it's very likely that taxes will be raised. As to why, if you're spending more, you want to pay for it. If our economy grows, the size of the economy grows and revenues come in, then perhaps we don't. But as you know, we have some limits of growth in terms of our labor and our land, so our economy is projected to grow 1 to 3%. But these are issues, I think, that we're best dealt with when we need to. It's just that we want to, as a young gentleman who said, that not be carried away completely with soft ideas, but really be realistic. But I think we first have to determine in the national conversation, how do we better take care of the disadvantaged groups, the disabled, those with special needs, our elderly, our wheelchair handicap. And then, decide from there how much, what we need, what we can afford, and how do we husband our resources to take better care of them. I think that's a better conversation. We must certainly never dismiss reactions, even negative, to this vision and dream. And indeed, that would be very one-sided. This is not, a fairy tale setting and saying let everything will be fine, and that kind of negative reaction actually tempers us and tells us, oh, okay, this is what we can do. Because if we sort of said, let's all do this, and somebody says, how are you going to pay for it, and we says, let's dismiss it, or the other person says, well, you say this, but the reason why, as some of the participants said, I feel pressure about my jobs, I feel that there's too much competition. I feel that I have to work hard, and I feel that my employers are unsympathetic. I think he used a less kind word, and that that's why I'm not having children. And these are serious concerns that we need to take into account. And the best way to try to reduce some of that pressure really is to provide better care, whether it's childcare, preschool education, housing, transport, healthcare. And when a person, the next experience he has, whether he falls sick or a relative falls sick or he has a child and needs to bring it to preschool, and says, well, not that difficult, then part of that fear becomes relieved. It will take time, even for all the various measures, but I think if we work hard at it, I'm confident that government can deliver within the next 5-7 years concrete changes. I shared that I would prefer this conversation to start from a point of what kind of people we want, in how we want our behavior to be in relation to others, and not necessarily just foreigners, because it could be people with differences. And I mentioned that we actually, Singaporeans, by and large, are big-hearted, and our history shows that we've been able to live with people with differences, different race, different religion. And I think it's, as others have mentioned, it's not completely unfounded, because yes, we were behind in our public transport, housing, and we're catching up. So let's, I think, start on a new footing, and I think what the participants are saying, that the majority of Singaporeans are not like that. If you talk to them on a one-to-one level in my constituency, they are open and they are accepting. Yes, they grumble about differences, about different habits, the way that people speak, but there's not much animosity there. It's just, and over time, I think we can integrate people with differences, whether they are new citizens, whether they are foreigners. But I think the conversation really is about, what do you want? What kind of people do you want to be? And I believe that Singaporeans are dignified people. They are deep down very open-hearted and gracious, and that this is actually who we are. So how do we get that message across? Sometimes we're a bit more reserved. Sometimes we're shy, but we may have to just step out and show that show to ourselves that we are kind of people. I don't want this to be, I'm watching how you behave. That is really unproductive. This must be about, what do I want to be, and what do I want my children to be. So I was very glad that one of the participants stood up and says, this is what I want to talk to my children about. And I think that's a positive starting point. It is a difficult choice, and businesses are also really responding that, and part of it is why we're pushing on productivity, and and others have said that there will be some restructuring. Some businesses, because they can't get the labor, will have to find different businesses or find different models. But the government will have to give them assistance in terms of funds to upgrade, to find new processes. So I don't want to downplay this. I actually think it's a big challenge, and that we say that we have to go for slower growth, but that in itself is not a virtue. It's an acceptance of there's the limits of our growth. So it's something that we have to watch carefully, and we have to continue to be in touch with businesses and Singaporeans to see how we can navigate this. I like those questions that you're asking me. It shows that people know what it's about, and I don't think the response should be, this is okay. This is actually a difficult area. We've never had a situation in our history where we said we should go for slower growth intentionally. We were doing well because we said, let's go, and I think we grew because of that, and we had the resources. Now we've come to a different stage. I think it's only going to should be fair to all citizens and Singaporeans in this national conversation. How fast we grow, how much we grow, must be part of that conversation. Because as I said, as PM said in his National Day rally, the cities around us are not choosing to grow slow. They're choosing to grow much faster. And I'm not only talking about Shanghai, Beijing, Bangalore, Mumbai, I'm talking about KL and Jakarta. So this is something that we really have to talk about. There obviously needs to be not only a change in mindset for young couples, but I think parents to be, grandparents. I think our young Singaporeans are sensible. They know, they are reflecting fears about, how will the child grow up in an environment that's nurturing? Will it be stressful for the wife? And most of our women now work. And, does this mean giving up a career? Is my husband going to be supportive? How do I make a hard decision between advancing in career and even marrying? And these are not things that you can dismiss by dollars and cents or by making some policy. These are life choices. What we can do as a government is to try to create an environment where the choices are not more stark than they need to be. So in other words, provide good childcare so that reduces that anxiety. Make sure that young couples can get their housing early, and as give them priority if they're going to have children, so that, or at least they say, if I'm going to have a child, there's a roof over my head. So we can continue to make the environment that reduces the anxiety, but at the end of the day, it's an individual choice. It's not something that you can pressure people into doing. I think people have families because they really want to have families, and I believe that Singapore is a good place to have families. But that's me. Singaporeans at large must believe it, and then they'll have, they'll marry and settle down. I mean, that's what people do in life. So we cannot be that different, and I'm confident that if we continue to work at it, hopefully this Dragon Year and subsequent years will have a more harvest to look forward to.